Exercise A. Meaning from context. Page 24. 1.
What do you think about the change in the bus schedule?
It doesn't affect me. I'm planning to ride my bicycle to class.
2.
Is it a good idea to separate children who don't behave well in class?
It depends on the circumstances. It's important to know why they are behaving badly.
3.
Why are scientists interested in fingerprints?
Because they are unique. No two people have the same ones.
4.
Are athletes naturally talented? Can anyone become skilled if they train enough?
Scientists have spent years investigating this subject, and no one is really sure.
5.
Are you surprised that Oscar became a professional musician?
No. He was exposed to a lot of music as a child. He grew up with it.
6.
I need to find someone to share my apartment. How do I choose a good roommate?
I would look at personality traits, such as whether or not the person is quiet.
7.
I want to go to a really good college. Do you think that will be possible?
I think so, but your grades will help determine which ones will accept you.
8.
Lucy and Lara are twins, but they look so different. How is this possible?
Twins aren't all identical. They don't always look the same.
9.
Did you experience any problems when you moved here?
Not really. I found it easy to adapt to the food and the weather.
10.
Would you like to start your own business?
No. I'm very cautious with money. I would rather work for someone else.
Listening. Is personality determined at birth? Exercise B. Main ideas. And Exercise D. Details. Page 27.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, I want to continue our discussion of DNA and how it affects us all. Let's start with a quick review of last week's lecture. As I hope you remember, DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is the material that carries genetic information in living things. It is divided into units called genes. You have about 20,000 to 25,000 of them, by the way. Half from your father and half from your mother. And these genes determine your hair color, eye color, height, and other physical features. Genes are passed from one generation to the next. So if everyone in your family is tall, there's a good chance that you're tall too. If your mum and dad both wear glasses, you probably do too. We can say that it's in our genes. But what I really want to talk about in this lecture is personality. Everyone has different personalities. Adriana might be shy. She hates speaking in front of a group. Divya is a risk taker, while Jose is more cautious. Trang is caring and wants to help others. But where do these personality traits come from? Do they come from your DNA, like your shoe size or hair color, or are you more influenced by the environment you grew up in? Researchers have spent decades investigating this question, and I'll tell you right now, there is no easy answer to this. We can start by looking at 3 key questions. First, do children who share DNA have the same personalities? A lot of interesting research has been done with identical twins who share the same DNA. Would you expect identical twins to have the same personality features? Well, this is a question that has interested scientists for a long time. A 20-year research project from 1979 to 1999 showed that identical twins who grew up in different homes have about 50% of the same personality features, and 50% different. This really gives us no definite answer. So while there may be a link between genetics and personality, it isn't a very clear one. The second question we can ask is, does personality change as we get older? If we believe that personality is the result of DNA, we assume that it is determined at birth and doesn't change. On the other hand, if we recognize the importance of environment, we can assume that our personality is the result of our experiences. Scientists used to assume that personality did not change. If you're shy as a child, you stay shy as an adult. Scientists now generally accept that personality can change. Let's take the example of a child who grows up in a family where there is no praise, only criticism. She never hears, "Well done." She only hears, "You must do better next time." That child grows up thinking she is not good enough and will never succeed in anything. As a teenager, she is uncomfortable speaking in front of others in case she says something stupid. As she grows up, goes to college, and does well in her courses, she becomes more confident and much more comfortable with group situations. Her personality has changed. You might wonder whether this is really a change in personality, or whether she has just learned to adapt to new situations. Scientists don't always agree, and we don't know for sure if it was a personality change or an adaptation. Okay, now let's ask our third question. If personality is largely environmental, how do children from loving families become criminals? Do they have some hidden gene that makes them do bad things? Most people argue that if a person ends up as a criminal, it's most likely because they've met the wrong people, or because their circumstances are so terrible that they end up doing something illegal. So, in addition to family life, circumstances are important in personality. Do our genetics limit what we can do? Some people might say yes. They argue that since some aspects of personality are genetic, you might not have the genetic material to become a lawyer or a professional athlete, for example. But this belief could lead to a dangerous situation if schools use DNA tests to evaluate students. We need to be very cautious when we're talking about DNA and personality. Fortunately, schools do not give DNA tests to kids and then tell them to become lawyers or car mechanics or whatever. I think we can end by saying that everyone has a unique combination of personality features. It's probably accurate to say that our personality is somewhat influenced by our DNA, but it also has a lot to do with other factors. We know that people change as they get older. Some of you have seen that in your own personalities. We also know that people are influenced by their environment, the circumstances they're exposed to, their parents, the neighborhood they grow up in, their education, the friends they make. And perhaps the biggest lesson here is that our personalities are not limited by our genes.
Exercise C. Page 27.
DNA is a chemical in our bodies that gives us our height and hair color. But does DNA also determine our personalities? Scientists are not always in agreement about this. They argue that if our DNA is responsible for our personalities, then three things should be true. First, identical twins should have the same personalities. Second, personality should not change as we get older. And third, children from loving families should not do bad things as adults. However, we know that these are not always the case. A study from 1979 to 1999 showed that twins have some of the same personality features, but not all. We also know that the circumstances we grow up in can affect our personalities. For example, we may become less shy as we get older. We can conclude that everyone's personality is unique and that personality is probably partly genetic and partly the result of what we're exposed to at home and at school. In particular, we need to be cautious when talking about DNA. We cannot say, for example, that a child does not have the right DNA to follow a particular career.
Exercise A. Page 28.
1. In today's class, the professor talked about genetics.
2. In my presentation, I'm going to talk about the role of DNA in determining our health.
3. My friend is an identical twin. He sometimes tells me about the problems he has.
4. I don't believe Jackson. I don't think he's telling the truth.
5. Ruby told a funny joke while we were eating dinner.
6. My classmates all said they enjoyed the lecture.